Hello, and welcome to Cinema Mugshot. Have you ever found yourself pondering the real-life implications of Walter White's actions in Breaking Bad? What if every explosion, every lie, every ounce of blue meth had legal repercussions in our world? Today, we're breaking down Walter's fictional journey against a backdrop of real-world laws. Prepare for an eye-opening look into the legal maze of Breaking Bad's universe. Walter initiates the dangerous journey of meth production in an RV with Jesse, marking the inception of his criminal empire. Drug manufacturing, up to 10 years in federal prison. The act of manufacturing meth catapults Walter into a life of crime, with potential penalties of life imprisonment and severe fines. This moment is the genesis of Walter's transformation into a notorious drug lord, setting the stage for the perilous path that lies ahead. Walter employs his chemistry knowledge to create a fiery explosion at the rude businessman's car, exhibiting a rebellious streak. Destruction of property, up to 3 years in prison plus fines. This act of defiance showcases Walter's ability to use his chemistry expertise for destructive purposes. A crime like this, destruction of property, could result in up to 3 years in prison, along with financial penalties. It's a bold statement of Walter's growing frustration and his willingness to break the law. In numerous episodes, Walter White cunningly hides his illicit earnings, evading the prying eyes of the tax authorities. Tax evasion, up to 5 years in prison plus fines. This recurring act of tax evasion could have landed Walter in prison for up to 5 years, with additional financial penalties, illuminating the double life he had led to preserve his criminal empire. During a heated family dispute, Walter impulsively kidnaps his own daughter, Holly, showcasing a darker side amidst familial chaos. Kidnapping, up to 20 years in prison. This act of desperation could result in a lengthy prison sentence of up to 20 years, depicting the lengths Walter would go to in moments of despair. In this bold heist, Walter masterminded the robbery of a methylamine train shipment, pushing the limits of his criminal pursuits. Robbery, up to 20 years in prison. The audacious nature of the crime raises the stakes, potentially resulting in a 20-year prison sentence, highlighting the increasingly dangerous path Walter has chosen to tread. Walter orchestrates a chilling mass killing of witnesses in prison to protect his identity, showcasing a sinister, strategic mind. Witness intimidation, up to 20 years in prison. With a potential 20-year prison sentence, this act of witness intimidation reveals the dark measures Walter takes to shield his criminal activities. Walter takes a daring step by planting a homemade explosive on Gus's car, although it is not detonated, revealing his calculated yet dangerous mindset. Attempted bombing, up to 20 years in prison. This moment captures Walter's growing ruthlessness and strategic mind, willing to resort to bombing to eliminate a formidable adversary. Although the explosive wasn't detonated, the act of planting it alone could lead to a staggering 20-year prison sentence. Walter becomes the head of an organized crime syndicate, reflecting his rise to power in the criminal underworld. Engaging in organized crime, up to 3 years in prison. Walter's ascent to the helm of an organized crime syndicate marks a pinnacle of criminal authority and power. Engaging in organized crime could lead to life imprisonment, highlighting the severe legal ramifications awaiting Walter. Walter's persistent lies, especially to Skyler, about his criminal activities, drive a wedge through his family, leading to a life full of deception. Fraud varies by jurisdiction. Walter's web of lies not only endangers his family, but also traps them in a world of criminality. The continuous deception is a form of fraud, the penalties for which vary by jurisdiction. In this scene, Walter White's desperation shines through, as he employs a massive magnet to erase potential evidence. Destruction of evidence, up to 5 years in prison plus fines. This act of destruction of evidence could lead to severe legal repercussions. In reality, such a crime could lead up to 5 years in prison alongside substantial fines, showcasing the dangerous game Walter is playing to keep his criminal activities hidden. Walter commits a direct act of murder by strangling Crazy 8 inside the RV, marking his descent into the criminal world. Direct murder, up to life in prison or death penalty. This cold-blooded murder could result in a life sentence or even the death penalty, marking a point of no return in Walter's criminal journey. Walter takes a dark turn by poisoning Brock with Lily of the Valley to manipulate Jesse, exhibiting a sinister level of cunning. Poisoning up to life in prison. This shocking act of poisoning could lead to a life sentence, showcasing a malicious strategy to manipulate Jesse. The dangerous game Walter plays not only risks innocent lives, but also displays a menacing level of deceit and manipulation, unraveling his moral compass. Walter purchases and carries unregistered firearms for protection, stepping further into criminal territory. Illegal possession of firearms up to 10 years in prison, plus fines. Walter's procurement of unregistered firearms signifies his readiness to engage in violent measures for self-preservation. The illegal possession of firearms could lead to up to 10 years in prison, illustrating the escalating danger and illegality surrounding Walter's actions. Walter exhibits extreme domestic violence, assaulting Skylar in a fit of rage, showcasing the deteriorating familial relations. Domestic violence up to 5 years in prison plus fines. The scene of domestic violence against Skylar is a stark manifestation of Walter's deteriorating moral compass and the escalating violence in his life. This act could lead to a 5-year prison sentence, shedding light on the personal and legal costs of Walter's criminal journey. Walter and Jesse resort to a gruesome method of dissolving bodies using hydrofluoric acid to hide evidence, showcasing a dark and desperate measure. Abuse of a corpse up to 2 years in prison plus fines. This bizarre method of evidence disposal reveals the grim reality of their criminal actions. The act of dissolving bodies classified as abuse of a corpse could lead to up to 2 years in prison and additional fines. Walter manufactures ricin, a deadly poison, intending to use it as a weapon, displaying his knowledge in lethal chemistry. Manufacturing deadly poison up to life in prison. The manufacturing of ricin, a deadly poison, underscores Walter's sinister use of his chemical expertise. This act could lead to life imprisonment, reflecting the lethal extremes of his criminal operations. Walter holds Saul Goodman hostage when Saul tries to quit, displaying a ruthless control over his associates. Hostage taking up to life in prison. Walter's act of holding Saul hostage highlights his domineering and ruthless control over his associates. This crime could lead to life imprisonment, depicting the tyrannical nature of Walter's operations. Walter indirectly causes Jane's death by not intervening during her overdose, showcasing a cold indifference to human life. Indirect murder varies by jurisdiction. Walter's cold indifference during Jane's overdose results in her death, highlighting a chilling disregard for human life. Indirect murder charges vary by jurisdiction, but this act unveils a dark and heartless facet of Walter's persona. Walter plants a bug in Hank's office to keep tabs on the DEA's investigation, displaying a paranoid desire for control. Illegal wiretapping up to 5 years in prison. Walter's act of illegal wiretapping exemplifies a paranoid desire to control and monitor the threats against him. This criminal act could lead to a 5-year prison sentence, showcasing Walter's willingness to invade privacy in self-preservation efforts. In a bold move, Walter sets fire to a drug lab, causing a massive explosion to erase traces of his illicit activities. Arson, up to 20 years in prison. Walter's audacious act of arson not only obliterates the drug lab, but also risks numerous lives, reflecting his desperate measure to cover his criminal tracks. This fiery act could lead to a 20-year prison sentence, showcasing the escalating risks Walter takes in his criminal endeavors. Walter adopts the menacing alias Heisenberg to conceal his true identity, delving deeper into the criminal underworld. Identity fraud up to 5 years in prison plus fines. Adopting the alias Heisenberg symbolizes Walter's descent into the criminal realm, as he meticulously crafts a feared persona to operate under. This act of identity fraud could lead to a 5-year prison sentence and additional fines, illuminating the duality of Walter White and his nefarious alter ego, Heisenberg. Walter's indirect actions lead to a tragic mid-air collision between two planes, causing a catastrophic loss of life. Manslaughter or criminal negligence varies by jurisdiction. The tragic air traffic disaster, stemming from a chain of events set in motion by Walter, showcases the far-reaching unintended consequences of his actions. Although indirectly caused, Walter's involvement could potentially lead to charges of manslaughter or criminal negligence, carrying significant prison time and reflecting the devastating ripple effects of his criminal journey. To put it all into perspective, if Walter White were a real person and tried for every on-screen crime he committed in the show, he would be facing over a century in prison, multiple life sentences, and possibly the death penalty. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the legal implications of Walter White's actions. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning.